The sun had long dipped behind the jagged horizon, casting a blood-red hue over the town of Elmsworth. The dust from the streets swirled through the air, an omen in the sweltering heat. Inside the saloon, the clinking of poker chips and the low hum of conversation created a false sense of calm, as if the people in the room had no idea what was about to unfold. But Sam Cowboy McCall did. He could smell it before the doors even swung open, the scent of trouble, thick in the air. A man didn't make it to his age and position without knowing when the world was about to flip upside down, and tonight, it was about to happen. He could feel it in his gut, that gnawing sense of inevitability. Sam made his way to the bar, his boots scraping against the wooden floor. His spurs jingled faintly, the only sound that broke through the murmurs of the poker game in the corner. His wide-brimmed hat sat low on his head, casting a shadow over his weathered face, hiding the thousand-yard stare that had become his trademark. The low glow of lanterns flickered against the walls, bathing the room in an eerie, golden light. Sam wasn't here for the usual whiskey, though. He wasn't here for any of it. The dealer sat near the back, a cigar dangling from his lips, a toothpick between his teeth. His eyes were sharp, calculating, and as soon as he saw Sam approach, a smile spread across his face, not one of warmth, but of expectation. This was a man who knew how to make a deal, and he'd been waiting for this moment all night. Well. Sam McCall, the dealer said, his voice as smooth as the whiskey he peddled. I hear you've been around Elmsworth a time or two. What brings you in tonight? Sam didn't flinch. He met the dealer's gaze, his eyes narrowing. I'm not here for the poker game, he said, his voice rough from years of dust and dry whiskey. I'm here for something else. The dealer's grin widened, as if he'd been expecting this. He nodded toward the woman sitting in the far corner of the saloon, her presence commanding the room even from a distance. Her dark eyes were locked on Sam, intense and unwavering. She was dressed in a long, flowing black dress, lace cascading down her arms, a sharp contrast to the rough, dusty saloon that surrounded her. Isabella. Isabella stood slowly, the light from the flickering lanterns catching her dark hair, making it shimmer like an obsidian stone. Her lips curled into a slow, deliberate smile, sharp as a knife. Her gaze never wavered from Sam as she walked toward him, her steps soft yet purposeful. She had the kind of beauty that unsettled men, the kind that made them feel both wanted and hunted. Money back if you can't last one night. Isabella's voice was low, seductive, and without a trace of hesitation. That's the deal, cowboy. Sam's breath hitched in his chest. He knew of her reputation, whispers in every town he'd passed through. Whispers of a game only the desperate or the foolish played. A single night, a single test, and if you failed, you lost everything. Your money, your pride, and in some cases, your very soul. She stood before him now, the room growing quieter as the other patrons watched the exchange unfold, each one of them already guessing what was going to happen. Some of them had probably lost their own bets in this same game. But Sam wasn't like the others. He wasn't here to back down. The dealer's eyes gleamed with amusement, watching Sam's reaction. You sure about this, cowboy? You know the rules. If you can't stand the night, you pay the price. No refunds. Sam's hand tightened around the edge of the bar, his pulse quickening, but he kept his face impassive. I'll pay it, he said firmly. I don't back down. Isabella's smile deepened, her lips curving into something more dangerous, more knowing. One night, that's all it takes to change everything. Her voice dropped lower, as if the saloon's very walls were leaning in to listen. If you fail, everything you own is mine. A cold shiver ran down Sam's spine. It wasn't just money she was asking for. This was a test that meant more than he could fully comprehend. Later that evening, Sam found himself standing at the threshold of a dilapidated cabin on the outskirts of town. The wind howled outside, rattling the wooden walls, but inside, it was silent, too silent. Sam stood still, staring into the darkness beyond, unsure of what was coming next. His heart pounded in his chest, the weight of the situation pressing down on him like the heavy air before a storm. I'm not here to play games, Sam muttered, his voice rough with the weight of everything he had left behind. He wasn't sure why he'd agreed to this. Was it the challenge? The desperation? Or maybe it was the way Isabella looked at him, like she knew something he didn't. Isabella stepped closer, her figure illuminated by the faint light from a single lantern on the table. "I think you are," she whispered, her breath warm against his ear. "You've been running for so long, cowboy. Running from what you've lost. Running for what you are. But tonight," she let her words trail off as she stepped around him, her fingers grazing the fabric of his coat. "Tonight, you'll face it all." Her words sent a jolt through Sam, his mind racing. He was a man who'd lost everything, his land, his family, his name. He'd built a life on the ruins of what he once had, but he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't walk away from this now. "Do you think this will make you forget?" Isabella's voice was soft, seductive, but there was an edge of truth to it. She was more than just a woman, more than just a wager. She was a mirror, reflecting the choices he'd made, and the ones he still had left to make. Sam took a step back, his heart hammering in his chest. "I'm not looking for redemption," he said, though the words didn't sit right in his mouth. Isabella smiled again, her eyes gleaming with something dark, something he couldn't name. "No," she said softly, "but you'll find it here, even if you don't want to." The night passed in a blur, a whirlwind of desire and regret. Sam could feel himself losing control, but there was something about Isabella, something dangerous and magnetic, that kept him there. Every moment was both a test and a temptation. And when the first light of dawn crept through the cracks in the cabin, Sam lay still, breathing heavily, his body aching in ways he didn't fully understand. Isabella was gone, vanished before the sun even had a chance to rise. All that remained was the lingering memory of her touch, the fading warmth of her presence, and a single note left on the table. "Money back if you can't last one night," it read. "But you're not the same man anymore, cowboy." Sam's throat tightened. He had lasted, but what had it cost him? His money? No, that wasn't it. What he had lost could never be bought back. Back at the saloon, the dealer was waiting, eyes glittering with something close to amusement. Sam walked in slowly, his steps heavy with the weight of the night. He could feel the eyes of the room on him, the quiet anticipation thick in the air. "Well, cowboy," the dealer said, a smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Did you last the night?" Sam's hand clenched around the bar as he faced the dealer. His chest felt tight, his thoughts a tangled mess of emotions. "I lasted," he said, his voice distant, cold. The dealer's grin only widened. "You always do." But Sam wasn't listening anymore. He turned and walked out the door, stepping into the harsh light of the morning. The wind had kicked up, dust swirling in the air, mixing with the memories of what had just happened. He had paid the price, but the question remained. What had he really lost? And could he ever get it back? As he walked away, the saloon doors closed behind him, the sound of them echoing through the empty street. The sun was rising higher now, casting long shadows over the land. Sam McCall had made his choice. He had played the dealer's game, but he wasn't sure he had won. And as the town began to stir, he knew that the price of a night wasn't something he could outrun. The end of one night, and the beginning of something he would never be able to forget.